Hello and welcome back into another edition of Prime Sports World. I'm, of course, your host, David On Point Huffman. Please like, share, and subscribe to the podcast as we are currently live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and, of course, on the Huddle Sports Network. You can find that on all of your Roku devices. Thank you very much for joining us. Please like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. On today's episode of the show, we're going to be breaking down week number 15 in the National Football League. As some teams push themselves into definite playoff contention, other teams kind of faded into the background. Not to name any names, but one of the first teams we're going to talk about definitely took a major hit to their playoff chances as they fall at home. Also, kind of a rough weekend to be a home team this week in the NFL. As majority of teams went on the road and got victories on the road, big time important victories on the road. Kansas City, Cincinnati, Washington, Ravens, Dallas, the New York Jets, the Buffalo Bills, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and the Green Bay Packers all went out and won highly contested road competitions this week, including the Los Angeles Rams as well. So it was a good weekend to be a road team this week in the National Football League. And yeah, as we get ready for two Monday Night Football games, we got my Chicago Bears going up against my buddy Jamie Gunderson's Minnesota Vikings. Trying to watch that game tonight. And then we got the Las Vegas Raiders and the Atlanta Falcons. Atlanta trying to still stay in the hunt in the NFC South as the Raiders are kind of getting down to the nitty-gritty here towards a pretty lost season outside of the productive play of Brock Bowers. But other than that, nothing all that good to talk about when it comes to the Las Vegas Raiders. Also, if you play fantasy football, I need 25 points combined between Aaron Jones and the Atlanta Falcons defense tonight. So keep your fingers crossed and anything else you got that I end up getting that kind of numbers that I need for my fantasy team this week. But yeah, let's get right into it. Not waste any more time. I think some panelists are going to join me periodically throughout the show. Otherwise, you just roll with me, David On Point Huffman. Let's first talk about Thursday Night Football and a scrappy, gritty game between these two football teams, as I don't think a touchdown was scored even in this football game, as the Los Angeles Rams go into Levi Stadium and basically put a death nail in the San Francisco 49ers season. Like, this is probably it. Devondre Campbell, if you don't know, refused to go into a game and has been suspended for the rest of the season, basically, by the San Francisco 49ers. George Kittle and a company not happy about his behavior. DeAndre Campbell was supposed to be that guy that was supposed to come in for Trey Greenlaw and be the kind of replacement guy, but then Trey Greenlaw comes back from injury from tearing that Achilles in the Super Bowl. Devondre Campbell wasn't happy about being moved to a bench role. And then when Trey Greenlaw gets hurt, Patrick Campbell doesn't want to go back in the game. It's crazy. I've never seen anything like that before. But Rams win this game 12-6. Matthew Stafford, 16 of 127, 160 yards. Kyron Williams went over the century mark with 100 yards rushing. Puka Nacua, 7 for 97. I apologize if you are a Cooper Kupp fantasy football owner. A goose egg for you in what is probably a playoff, the semifinals and playoffs in fantasy leagues, including the guy I'm playing with in Dan Kenny's league. So sorry about that, Dizon. Congratulations on your engagement. But I hope your fantasy team goes down tonight. On the San Francisco side, Brock Purdy, just not a good day at the office for this entire offense. They were only able to muster 2 field goals, one in the first quarter and one in the third quarter. 14 of 31 for Brock Purdy, 142 yards and a pick. Isaiah Gorendo, 16 of 57, and George Kittle, 4 for 61. Just not a good day at the office for this offense for the San Francisco 49ers, as they really struggled to move the football for majority of the game. And yes, this is a very good Rams defense, but this isn't a defense that's so good that you should only be able to put up 191 yards. And it's just more evidence that this is just a lost season for San Francisco. They had a big-time opportunity to Deebo Samuel on the crosser route. If he catches that pass, I think it was 4th down, or it was like 3rd down maybe late in the game. But if he catches that pass, he probably scores a touchdown on that particular play. He obviously makes the drop. This comes off of his comments that he needs to be more involved in the offense. Then it has a couple bad drops in this game. 191 offense for a San Francisco 49ers offense that has weapons everywhere. It's going to be interesting to see what San Francisco does moving forward. Rams, kind of clicking at the right time. I mean, they're winning, I think 5 out of the last 6 games, 300 total yards of offense here. They got the running game going. They got the passing game going. But the Rams, they didn't punch it in the end zone. They got 4 field goals, but they still go on to win this game and keep their season kind of alive for San Francisco, or for the Los Angeles Rams. And unfortunately, on the other end, a little bit of despair when it comes to the San Francisco 49ers. You come off that Super Bowl, you have really high hopes for this football team, and it just doesn't work out for you this season based on injuries and just poor play in general. Swinging into the early afternoon window, Sunday afternoon football. Let's first start in Cleveland as the Kansas City Chiefs go into Cleveland, win this game 21-7. Kansas City Chiefs basically cruised through this entire victory. Jameis Winston did not have a good day at the office. We saw a lot of bad Jameis in this game, threw 3 interceptions. Patrick Mahomes threw 2 touchdowns. He did have to leave the game early, sometime in the middle of the fourth quarter, with a knee injury or with an ankle injury. They're calling it a mild high ankle sprain. His status for the remaining games on their schedule is very, very much in doubt. But he played well in this game, 16 of 38, 159 yards and 2 touchdowns. Kareem Hunt led the team in rushing. Xavier Worthy led the team in receiving yards. But Noah Gray and Juju Smith-Schuster caught the receiving touchdowns for them. On the Cleveland side, Jerome Ford caught a touchdown. Unfortunately, Nick Chubb, his season is probably over. 9 for 41, but he broke his foot in this game. Probably won't be a factor for the rest of the season. And then Jerry Jeudy, his first 1,000-yard receiving season in his NFL career. He had 11 catches for 108 yards in this game. He's been one of the lone bright spots when it comes to the Cleveland Browns so far this season, as they get beat by Kansas City. But people are really talking about is the injury to Patrick Mahomes. If he's not right, I mean, this is not a team that's going to, he basically is the engine that makes this go. They're going to need him to return to be any kind of a threat in the AFC. Carson Wentz is not the quarterback that he used to be. He hasn't been the same guy since he tore that ACL. He's not good enough to carry this team to the Super Bowl. They need Patrick Mahomes and need him back in a big way. In Cleveland, this is just a lost season. Just chalk it up to another one of these games that you didn't get it done. Staying in the AFC North, but this time we're going to talk about the Cincinnati Bengals going into Nissan Stadium, taking on the Tennessee Titans, and they keep their season alive and their slim playoff hopes alive with another victory, 37-27. As Tennessee tried to mount a comeback towards the end of this game, scoring 13 points in the final frame, but it wasn't enough. As Joe Burrow continues to put up gaudy numbers. He had more picks in this game than he probably would like, but still 26-37, 271 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. Chase Brown punched in 1 on the ground. He also had 97 yards receiving, basically just missed the century mark. T. Higgins, Chase Brown, and Sam Hubbard, the defensive end, caught the receiving touchdowns for the Cincinnati Bengals. On the other side, Will Levis was really bad in this game. He threw 3 interceptions and was benched for Mason Rudolph, who did put some points on the board here. 2 touchdowns and a pick. Tony Pollard, who goes over 1,000 yards receiving, I do believe in rushing in this game. 45 yards and a touchdown. Tajay Spears had a touchdown. Josh Wiley, the tight end, has a touchdown. Shika Kongwu, 8 for 59. Tennessee, this is very much a disappointing season. Disappointing play from Will Levis. And for the Bengals, I mean, you keep your very slim playoff hopes alive, and you give yourself an opportunity to still kind of sneak into the playoffs. And let me tell you, if I'm a team in the AFC, I don't want to see Cincinnati make the playoffs. The way this offense is humming right now, this is one of the last teams that I want to see in the playoffs if I was a team in the AFC. But Cincinnati continues to roll. Moving on from there, we got the Commanders and the Saints. Washington kind of escapes with the 20-19 victory. I know there was a whole snafu with the clock towards the end of this game, where the clock mysteriously stopped for about 3 seconds. It basically gave the Saints enough time to clock the football and give them an opportunity to score that potential game-tying touchdown to Foster Moreau. But they could not complete the two-point conversion that would have given them the victory, as they scored 12 points in the final frame. And all 19 of their points actually come in the second half after they made a quarterback change where they switched from Jake Haener, who was not good in the first half, threw a pick, to Spencer Rattler. 10 of 21, 135 yards and a touchdown for Rattler. Jaden Daniels, 25 of 31, 226 yards and 2 tutties. He also led this team in receiving. And Terry Scary McLaurin scored both touchdowns for the Commanders. And if you haven't seen the second touchdown that he scored in this game, it is a virtuoso by Jaden Daniels. And there's also a virtuoso by Mr. Terry Scary McLaurin, as he basically just came out of nowhere and took that football out of the air. On the other side, Kendrick Miller led this team. Alvin Kamara left in the fourth quarter of this game and did not return. But he did catch his receiving touchdown before he went out, 4 for 58, and then a Foster Moreau caught the potential game-tying touchdown. But this was a get-right game for the Washington Commanders. Jane Daniels was good in this game, 25 of 31, 226 yards and 2 touchdowns. And it keeps them firmly in the driver's seat for that third and final wild card spot in the NFC. On the Saints side, you saw a little bit of fight from this team. You saw a little bit of fight from Spencer Rattler. You like to see that, but they're just not a good football team. And they're going to need to get a new head coach, and who knows what's going to happen with the quarterback position going forward. But a lot of decisions to make on the New Orleans Saints in the offseason. From there, we're going to swing into Baltimore and talk about the Baltimore Ravens and the New York Football Giants, which was an absolute beatdown from wire to wire. Baltimore wins this game 35-14. Lamar Jackson also put out a virtuoso performance in this game, 21-25, 290 yards and 5 passing touchdowns. Derrick Henry, 14 for 67. Rashad Bateman had 2 touchdowns. Justice Hill had a touchdown. Mark Andrews had a touchdown and became the most, he has more touchdowns than anybody in Baltimore Raven history, not regardless of position. He now has more touchdowns than he was tied with Jamal Lewis going into this game. He now has the most touchdowns in the history of the Ravens franchise. And then Devontae Walker, another backup tight end, also had a touchdown in this game. So 5 passing touchdowns for Lamar Jackson as he tries to make the case that he should be the MVP, even though I do think that Josh Allen locked that up with his performance against the Detroit Lions, which we'll get to a little bit later here in the show. Tim Boyle, who continues to somehow be in the NFL, came in for Tommy DeVito when he left with a concussion at halftime. Tim Doyle, 12 of 24, touchdown and a bad pick. Devin Singletary had a rushing touchdown. And Malik Neighbors, 10-81 and a touchdown for Malik Neighbors, as the Giants are probably one of these other teams that are going to clear house at the front office. They're going to clear house at the coaching staff. And they're going to clear house in this quarterback room probably and start fresh in the offseason. But the Ravens, this was a good win for the Ravens. They needed to bounce back. I know they're coming off a victory. I know they're coming off their bye, but a lot of questions about Baltimore as they've lost. This is the kind of game that Baltimore at times loses, not in this matchup, as they just cruise to the easy victory over the New York Football Giants. Sorry, Christian. Staying in the early afternoon window, the Dallas Cowboys also keep their slim playoff hopes alive as they beat the Carolina Panthers 30-14. It was probably the weakest game that Bryce Young has played since he's coming back from that benching earlier this season. But Cooper Rush was fantastic in this game, and it has been okay, pretty good since he became the starting quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys over the last couple of weeks here. Cooper Rush, 18 of 29, 214 yards and 3 tutties. Rico Dow goes over the century mark for the third game in a row. CeeDee Lamb was also incredible and virtually unguardable in this game as he had a touchdown and 100 yards receiving. Jalen Brooks and Jalen Tolbert each had a touchdown receiving as well for the Dallas Cowboys. On the other side, Bryce Young, yeah, he had a rushing touchdown in this game, but he just threw 2 bad interceptions. He also threw a touchdown to Jalen Coker, which was 83 yards. This is coming off of a was it a fumble or a missed 70-yard field goal, I think, by his name is escaping me, sorry. Brandon Aubrey, who attempted a 70-yard field goal, which was missed way short, way wide. Then they ended up going down and scoring a crazy touchdown. I think it was actually their first points of the game, actually. Yeah, so that was their first point of the game, was this long bomb touchdown that was just wild. But Carolina, I mean, this is the weakest performance we've seen out of Bryce Young since he became the starter again. And Dallas, you go keep your slim playoffs hope flies. And then when I was talking about this in the preview episode last week, I said this was the battle between the 2 most disappointing teams in the NFL so far this season. And this billed as a very entertaining football game, actually. But the New York Jets go into Duval County, and they escape with the victory 32-25 in a game that Aaron Rodgers actually looked like old Aaron Rodgers. Completion percentage is not quite where he wanted it to be. 16 of 30 for 289 yards and 3 touchdowns. Breece Hall had a rushing touchdown as he returned from his injury that caused him to miss a game last week. Devontae Adams had 2 touchdowns, including the longest touchdown of his NFL career, 71 yards, that basically iced this game, or not iced it, but that long touchdown tied the game at 25, and then his touchdown later is the one that sealed the game for the New York Jets. Garrett Wilson also had a touchdown as he has a strong 3rd season here in the National Football League. Mac Jones, you saw a lot of good Mac Jones. You saw a lot of bad Mac Jones in this football game. 2 touchdowns and a pick. Running game pretty non-existent, but they did run for 136 yards, 4.7 yards per clip, but no touchdowns on the ground. And Brian Thomas Jr., who quietly should be somewhere involved in the Rookie of the Year, Offensive Rookie of the Year weight. 10 catches for 105 yards and 2 touchdowns. And Breece Hall actually scored the game-winning touchdown as he punched in when Devontae Adams was tackled at the 1-yard line. Breece Hall is there to cash in for the New York Jets. As both of these teams probably looking at, well, the Jets for sure, because they already fired Robert Saleh, and they will be a new coaching staff in New York. I think there's only It's 7:40 p.m. here, Eastern Standard Time, and it's Doug Peterson still has his job as the head coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars. I think on Black Monday, that will be come to a merciful end if you are a Jacksonville Jaguar fan. From there, we got the final game in the late afternoon window. We got the Houston Texans beating the Miami Dolphins 20-12. Tua Tagovailoa 29-40, a touchdown and 3 interceptions, including the game-sealing touchdown by Derek Stingley Jr., who had 2 picks in this game, but one of them was the game-sealing pick. As they get the ball back with under 2 minutes, had an opportunity to try to bring this team back and was unable to do so. It was a crazy pick by Derek Stingley Jr., though, so kudos to him. But Devon Achane, 12 of 41. Jonnu Smith continues, I think, 3 touchdowns in a row in this game, 9 for 41 and a touchdown. Malik Washington was the leading receiver, though, for the Miami Dolphins, 5 for 52. Also, Grant DuBose left this game with a bad-looking injury, carted off the field, but taking it right to a medical facility. Our thoughts and prayers are out with his family and friends and to him himself. All the reports out of Miami and out of those medical facilities say that he is making a good job. He's recovering well. He has movement in all the extremities. So that was all very good sign. Jaylen Waddle also was banged up in this game and did not return after halftime. It's tough. CJ Stroud, 18 of 26, 131 yards, 2 touchdowns. Darrell Ogawale was the leading receiver for the Houston Texans as they really bottled up the running game. Joe Mixon, 12 of 23, 1.9 yards per clip. But Joe Mixon was the leading receiver, and Nico Collins scored 2 touchdowns. Like, it was a really nice, like, scramble drill by C.J. Stroud and threw it to Nico Collins, and just a nice, like, sidearm flick. Just went right to him. Just well played there by C.J. Stroud. This Houston Texans team continues to rally. They're 9-5. I think they won the division when when the Indianapolis Colts lost later in the afternoon. So this will be a playoff team. Just matters where their seeding is going to be moving forward as they try to. They need to play a little bit better on offense. They've been sloppy on offense. I mean, 18 and 26 for 131 yards. They also only had 3.9 yards per clip on the running game. Just not good enough. Not going to be able to get it done when it comes to playoff time. So Houston's going to have to clean up some things on offense. And this is kind of the death nail for the Miami Dolphins. They're probably not a playoff team now. May have had an opportunity if they could continue to win, but they've dropped 2 of the last 2 games, the games that they had to have against the Green Bay Packers and now against the Houston Texans. So just not a good look for the Miami Dolphins for them. And speaking of a team unraveling big time, we're swinging into the late afternoon window now. We got a textbook example of the unravel being in full effect as the Indianapolis Colts were up on this game. I think they were winning 13-7 going into the second half. Jonathan Taylor has the opportunity to score a big time touchdown that would have made it 20-7 late in the third quarter. Unfortunately, he does not take the football. He does not bring the football with him into the end zone. He fumbles it right before the goal line. It's a touchback. It goes through the back of the end zone. It ends up becoming a Denver Bronco football. Denver ends up scoring on that drive, and the wheels just completely came off of the Indianapolis Colts from that point on. They had that crazy trick play, then getting picked up. I guess it was a fumble technically because it was a backward pass. That ends up being taken right to the house. He hit, like, Nick Bonito caught it in stride on the run and took it all the way to the house for Pater for touchdown. But the Denver Broncos going to win this game 31-13 as the Colts unravel in the second half, and the Denver Broncos cruise to an easy victory in a game that was very close. And the Colts played well at moments in this game, but they had 24 unanswered points in the second half and cruised to the 31-13 victory. Anthony Richardson, 17 of 38, 172 yards and 2 interceptions. Jonathan Taylor, he did go over the century mark, but as I mentioned, had that very, very costly fumble where the ball went back through the goal line or through the end zone, resulting in a touchback. It was close if he actually broke the plane before he fumbled it. But yeah, just not great. And then Anthony Richardson had a rushing touchdown. Nobody's caught a receiving touchdown for the Indianapolis Colts. Alex Pierce left this game early and did not return. On the other side, Bo Nix, kind of still in the conversation for Offensive Rookie of the Year, was very, very up and down in this game. He threw 3 touchdowns, but he threw 3 bad interceptions, especially in the first half. But he had 20 of 33, 130 yards. He also led this team in rushing as they were really unable to get the ground game going. Jalen McLaughlin, who was a big-time contributor 2 weeks ago before their bye, 7 of 21. And Cortland Sutton continues this resurgence. Touchdown for him, touchdown for Troutman, and a touchdown for the rarely used fullback, Nate Adkins. As the Denver Broncos allow the Indianapolis Colts to finish unraveling. And this is probably the end of their season as well. They had some hopes that they could maybe make a wild card spot. I think this puts an end to any of those attributions for the Indianapolis Colts. And good win for the Denver Broncos in the Peyton Manning Bowl. And then to the game that everybody was waiting for and everybody's going to be talking about for a long, long time as the Buffalo Bills. Nobody circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills. Thank you, Chris Berman. But they go into Detroit, into Ford Field, and they hang up 48 points on the Detroit Lions. This game was not as close as the final score would entail. Buffalo was basically in the control and in the lead for majority of this contest. Detroit did hang up 41 points in the final frame to make things semi-interesting, but Buffalo 48 points, winning this over 42 to the Detroit Lions. And they also become the first team to have back-to-back games with 40 points in the same game. Jared Goff actually becomes the first quarterback to lose a game where you throw for over 400 yards, you throw 5 touchdowns and 0 picks and still lose. In my opinion, Josh Allen may have locked up the MVP with this performance against the Detroit Lions. Unfortunately for Detroit, they lost a bunch of players with injury during this game. Dave Montgomery tore his MCL, probably going to miss at least a month. Let's see. And they lost some defensive players. A. McNeil tore his ACL. He's done for the season. They lost a linebacker who broke his jaw. So they had a bunch of players go down to injury on the defensive side. Defensive side that was already really depleted going into this game. But Josh Allen, 22 of 34, 362 yards, 2 touchdowns. James Cook and Josh Allen both had 2 receiving touchdowns. Khalil Shakir, Ray Davis both had receiving touchdowns. On the other side, Jared Goff, 38 of 59, 494 yards and 5 touchdowns. Jahmyr Gibbs had a rushing touchdown. The Sun God, Amon-Ra St. Brown, had nearly 200 yards receiving and 1 touchdown. Jahmyr Gibbs, Jameson Williams, Tim Patrick, Dan Skipper, the left tackle or right tackle, I don't remember exactly where he plays on the offensive line, all had receiving touchdowns for the Detroit Lions as they try to claw their way back into this game, but just came up just short. Were unable to recover the onside kick. That was a great effort by Jake Bates, by the way, too. But they're unable to recover that kick, and they lose by 6 points. As Buffalo wins 48-42 over the Detroit Lions. Detroit in a little bit of trouble now because they have the same record now as the Minnesota Vikings and the Philadelphia Eagles. They do have a tiebreaker over both those two teams, but they have to still play Minnesota again, which could be the difference between having the number 1 seed in the NFC or being a wild card team and having to be on the road for the entire trip in the playoffs. Buffalo is still going to need some help if they want to get that number 1 seed in the AFC. They're still trailing Kansas City, who still only has that 1 loss to Buffalo. They still have some work to do in the AFC. And Detroit has a tough loss. Never want to see your team who scores 40 points and Jared Goff puts on that kind of performance. You expect to win that game. From there, the Battle of Pennsylvania, the Philadelphia Eagles emerged victorious, beating the Pittsburgh Steelers 27-13. Russell Wilson, just not a great day at the office for him. 14-22, not a great day for this entire offense, if I'm being frank with you. 14-22, 128 yards and a touchdown. That 1 touchdown went to Pat Freiermuth, who now has touchdowns in 3 straight games. But the running game just not effective in this game. Najee Harris, 6 for 14 yards, 2.3 yards per clip. And as we've seen with Pittsburgh, this team really goes as this running game carries this team. And when the running game is struggling, they just don't play as well. When you ask Russell Wilson to make plays and win games for you, he just can't do it. Jalen Hurts, 25 of 32, 290 yards and 2 touchdowns, including 1 to A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, as they both go over the century mark. Just an okay game for Saquon Barkley, 19-65 and no touchdown. Jalen Hurts did get a tush-push touchdown early in this game. Also, TJ Watt exited this game with an apparent injury. I have not seen the update of what that injury is or how severe it is. So thoughts and prayers out for him. Hopefully he's nothing serious so he can return to action. But Philadelphia basically won this game wire to wire. It was 17-13 at halftime, but Philadelphia scores 10 unanswered points in the final half and win this game 27-13 as Pittsburgh barely didn't move the football effectively at all in the second half of this game. Staying in the late afternoon window, but swinging into the AFC West or NFC West versus the AFC East as the New England Patriots lose another game, falling to 3-11 against the Arizona Cardinals in a game they had to have to keep their remote playoff hopes alive and an opportunity to win the NFC West. They win 30-17. Drake May, 16-23, a touchdown and a pick. His 1 touchdown was real nice to Demario Douglas. He also had a crazy touchdown. It may have gotten called back from the penalty. He pop-potted it. It was a wild touchdown. You just go check it out if you haven't seen it. But I'm pretty sure he got called back due to penalty. Did not count as part of his stat line. But yeah, Drake May, 16-93, touchdown, a pick. Ramondre Stevenson, 13-69. Drake May also had a rushing touchdown in this game. And then Kendrick Bourne, 3 for 44. But Demario Douglas has the lone receiving touchdown for the New England Patriots. But it was not enough to upset the Arizona Cardinals in the Big Toaster, as they're one of the few teams that actually won a game at home this weekend. But yeah, 23 of 30 for Kyler Murray for 224 yards. James Conner went over the century mark. He also had 2 touchdowns in this game. So if you started James Conner in your fantasy football lineup, you're very happy this afternoon or this evening. And then Trey McBride continues to just be an absolute menace at the tight end position, 9 of 87. Crazy thing is, though, he doesn't have a single receiving touchdown this season. That odds of him not having a receiving touchdown at this point of the year is pretty wild, given how many catches he has. Just take a quick look at that number real quick. Yeah, the man has 89 receptions, and the fact that he has 89 catches for 938 yards and not a single one of them have been for a touchdown, those odds are real small. But Arizona, keep your playoff hopes alive. They have a very much an uphill battle here because they lost both games to Seattle. So they're really going to have to turn it on here down the stretch and absolutely win out if they want to have any opportunity to make the playoffs. So we'll see how Arizona, we'll talk about them a little bit more when we get to the prediction show for tomorrow. And then for New England, yeah, it's kind of just a lost season. You kind of knew what the season was going to be when you came into it. But Drake May continues to have moments where you're like, yeah, that's the guy. So we'll see what ends up shaking out when all is said and done. To the final game in the late afternoon window, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers put a hurting on the Los Angeles Chargers at beautiful SoFi Stadium as they win this game 40-17 as they hang up 27 points in the final frame and basically cruise to the very, very easy victory over the Los Angeles Chargers. And this was a very entertaining game in the first half. But the Tampa Bay Buccaneers just absolutely ran away with this behind 4 touchdowns by Baker Mayfield. Bucky Irving returned from that injury. No, he wasn't hurt, but he only played like 1 snap in the game before. But 1,117 yards, and this victory is going to go a long way to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers potentially making a wild card push or even winning the NFC South, as they're currently in the driver's seat for that as well. Baker Mayfield, very efficient in this game as well. 22 of 27, 288 yards, 4 touchdowns, and a pick. Bucky Irving, 15 for 117. Mike Evans, man, 9 catches for 159 yards and 2 touchdowns. And then Jalen McMillan, 3 touchdowns in 2 games for the rookie. And then Rachaad White also had a receiving touchdown as well. In order for Mike Evans also to keep his streak alive of 1,000 yards every season he's been in the league, he's going to need about 250 yards over the final 3 games. There's no reason to think that he could not do that. 251 yards. Actually, my math is not great. 251 yards for the final 3 games in order to keep that streak alive of 1,000 yards in every season he's been in the NFL. So, yeah. On the other side, Justin Herbert, 21 of 33, 2 touchdowns and a pick. They just really never got the running game going. This has been a very different Los Angeles Chargers team since J.K. Dobbins has been on IR. They just haven't had the same kind of flow. 8 for 23, 4 Gus Edwards. Ladd McConkey continues a really strong rookie season, 5 for 56 and a touchdown. And Quentin Johnson, 5 of 45 and a touchdown for the Chargers. But they unfortunately do fall 40-17. It was just too much Tampa Bay, too much all the time, too much Baker Mayfield, too much Mike Evans, and too much Bucky Irving for the Los Angeles Chargers to hang with as they fall 40-17 in the SoFi Stadium, that beautiful stadium there in Los Angeles, California. And to the final game, staying on the West Coast, but moving up north as the Seattle Seahawks lose a game that they really needed to win. I know it's still in the driver's seat of the NFC West, but this is a game that they kind of had to have, and the Green Bay Packers were basically dominant from beginning to end. Seattle did try to make this semi-interesting, but you never really felt like they were going to be unable to get back into this game as the Green Bay wins 30-13. This game, and the final score is 30-13, but I'm telling you, this game was not that close. Geno Smith left in the third quarter. I have not seen the update on what his injury is. Something to do with his knee. Could barely walk. We're hoping he's going to be okay for a playoff push because Sam Howell came in and was just absolutely not good as a member of the Seattle Seahawks in this game. But he also doesn't get a lot of playing time. So we'll maybe if he gets some reps, maybe he can play a little bit better, but just not a great day at the office for Sam Howell. They combined for 0 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. They combined for 20 of 33, 128 yards. Zach Charbonnet continues, like, even when Kenneth Walker III comes back, Zach Charbonnet is going to need to be involved in this game. He's too talented to not have on the football field. 8 of 54 and a touchdown. Jackson Smith and Jigba, 10 of 83, no touchdown for him. But the Packers defense is really what people are talking about today. 7 sacks for 45 yards for the Green Bay Packers, as they were stifling on defense for majority of this game, wire to wire. And, Jordan Love continues to just be really efficient with the football. Another game, I think this is 4 in a row without an interception, 20 of 27, 229 yards and 2 touchdowns for Jordan Love. Josh Jacobs, 26 of 94 and a touchdown. Christian Watson, 3 catches for 56 yards. But Romeo Doubs, fresh off that concussion, missed 2 weeks in a row, comes back and scores 2 touchdowns, including the absolute ceiling touchdown against the Seattle Seahawks, where he caught it basically on the shoe handles, like shoestring catch for Romeo Doubs, as he has another fantastic game for the Green Bay Packers and this passing game as they cruise to the very easy victory over Seattle. But yeah, that's been my recap of everything we saw on Sunday and on Thursday night, Week 15 recap. Thank you very much for joining us. We'll be back here tomorrow where we break down Monday Night Football, as we got 2 games on the docket, one in Minnesota and the Chicago Bears, and then obviously the Atlanta Falcons and the Las Vegas Raiders. That Bear game is about to kick off. So hopefully you get a chance to watch that. But please like, share, and subscribe to the podcast, as we are live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and of course on the Huddle Sports Network. You can find that on your Roku devices. I'm David Huppman. Thank you very much for joining us. And at Prime Sports World, we bring the heat. Yeah, thank you very much for joining us. I will see you guys all tomorrow. You have all a good night and stay safe out there. And here's a quick message from our sponsor here at Huddle, who we are very thankful that they're allowing us to be on their network. So you all take it easy and take care. I will see you guys all tomorrow.
Welcome to the Huddle Sports Network, where we're breaking boundaries and redefining podcasting. Broadcasting live on 6 different platforms, we're bringing you the latest in sports like never before. Imagine tuning into real-time discussions, expert analyses, and fan interactions all at your fingertips. Each platform offers a unique experience, whether you're on YouTube, Facebook, or Twitch. We're not just sharing stories, we're creating a community of passionate sports enthusiasts. Join us as we dive deep into the evolution of podcasting, where every episode is a chance to engage, debate, and celebrate the world of sports. This is where your voice matters and the game never stops. Welcome to the Huddle Sports Network, where we're breaking boundaries and redefining podcasting. Broadcasting live on 6 different platforms, we're bringing you the latest in sports like never before, where sports passion meets podcasting brilliance. I'm Mike, the Bear fan, and alongside Bill, the Packer fan, and our buddy Ken Catalone, we're bringing you an incredible lineup of 38 diverse podcasters. Each one brings their unique flavor to the table, covering everything from game analysis to behind-the-scenes stories. Imagine diving deep into the minds of experts who live and breathe football, sharing